So today I have a burning question that has been gnawing at my brain for 2 years. Why does APT by ROSÉ and Bruno Mars sound so familiar? So almost 2 years ago, when this song came out, I had an intense case of musical deja vu. I asked everyone around me if this pre-chorus reminded them of something else. I asked my music professors, I asked my friends, I searched Reddit threads and Spotify playlists, and I got a different answer every single time. And all of them made sense. All of them did sound like APT. I decided to compile all of these examples together and try and figure out why they sound so familiar and why they sound so alike. So we're just gonna brute force go through all of the examples that I found and discovered. Starting with APT by ROSÉ and Bruno Mars. This is in a time signature of 4/4, a very neutral time signature for pop songs. Most pop songs are in 4/4, and most of these examples are in 4/4. And the key is F minor, which has a relative major of A flat major. Relative major and minors are the major or minor key that's associated with another major or minor key. The minor scale starts on the 6th note of a major scale. So the 6th note of A flat major is F. So F would be the relative minor, meaning F minor's relative major is A flat major. And the chord progression for this song is 4-5-6-1. The repeating rhythmic patterns toggle between quarter and eighth notes. Next is Night Changes by One Direction. Time signature 4/4, key of A flat major with the relative minor of F minor, and the chord progression is 4-5-4-5. Repeating rhythmic patterns of quarter, eighth, dotted quarter, and tied notes. Viva La Vida by Coldplay is the next example. Also in 4/4, also in the key of F minor with the relative major of A flat major. The reason I'm pointing out the relative major and minors is because they can sound familiar. Modes and scales and keys are all relative to the song. So if we take out a small portion of the song, like what we're doing, it can sound either way, depending on what chord it falls on at the end or what chord feels central. So pointing out the relative major or minor feels important since there is some overlap between the examples. Next is Alter by Poppy. In a time signature of 4/4, the key of F major and relative minor of D minor, and chord progression 2-5-1-4. Repeating patterns of quarter, eighth, tied, and even 16th notes here. One of Your Girls by Troye Sivan. Time signature of 4/4 in the key of B minor. Chord progression of 4-7-1-6. Repeating patterns of quarter, eighth, dotted quarter, and tied notes. Can We Dance by the Vamps. Time signature of 4/4, key of C sharp minor. Chord progression of 6-7-5-1. Repeating rhythmic patterns of quarter, eighth, and tied notes. Forever by Lewis Capaldi. With a time signature of 4/4, a key of B flat minor, and a chord progression of 6-7-3-5-1. Good Thing with Kalani by Zed. Is in a time signature of 6/8, a key of A major, and a chord progression of 2-5-1-4. Repeating patterns of dotted quarter and eighth notes. Now my personal favorite, Ode to the Mets by The Strokes. Which is in the time signature of 4/4. Key of C sharp minor, a chord progression of 4, 7, 5, 1, 4. Repeating rhythmic patterns of a few eighth notes tied into half notes. I also have a few honorable mentions that I didn't transcribe or study closely, but they do still sound similar to these other examples. We have Cherry Blossom by Joshua Bassett, Reckless by Madison Beer, So Am I by Ava Max, I Can't Be Myself featuring Jaden by Justin Bieber, Sophia by Clairo, and Melon Cakes by Demi Lovato. I'm sure there are a lot more, but that's all I got for you right now. Thank you to the Reddit forums that I looked through for these examples in the Spotify playlists. In this list of songs that I believe sound very similar, at first glance, the chord progressions, notes, keys, and rhythm don't portray much similarity. They actually look pretty different on sheet music and in the small little snippets I wrote out to show what's going on in the song. The conversations around this melody online had a lot of people saying that the reason for these similarities is the chord progressions, but that's not necessarily true. As we saw by the examples that I showed, the chord progressions are completely different. The chords themselves are different, and also the way they relate back to the key using the Roman numerals are different. So even when using Roman numerals to correspond with scale degrees, it's still not making the case for similarity when you don't hear the song at all. There's not much comparison between these examples. Now let's take a look at this confusing graphic I made. This is the work of a mad woman, I know, but bear with me, don't click off, hear me out. Basically, starting with APT by ROSÉ and Bruno Mars, each interval between the notes is labeled and color-coded differently to visually show which intervals are identical with some of the other examples. If you don't know what intervals are, that's okay. I'll give a brief explanation, and I'll also leave a video down below that explains them efficiently and better than I will. Intervals are the spaces between notes. When we look at them on this interval calculator that I like to reference, they show the notes stacking on top of each other, but intervals are always referred to as the lower note coming first. So if we have a low note going to a high note, there's always a space between these notes, and if there's not, and it's the same note, that's when the interval is in unison. Any other time that there are two notes next to each other, there will be an interval between those notes. When I was learning music theory in high school and in college, we had a bunch of examples that were very well known and easy to come to your brain when you think of an interval, so that you knew what interval it was based on your training. A popular one is Somewhere Over the Rainbow. The first somewhere is an interval of C to C, which is an octave. There's also Here Comes the Bride, which is a example of a perfect fourth between here and comes. Star Wars, I think, is a perfect fifth. What else is there? Jaws, a minor second. You get the point. Intervals are the distance between notes based on the tones on our chromatic scale. That should be enough of an explanation for you to understand the rest of this analysis, but if you're interested in learning a bit more, check out the video from a different channel that I put in my description after you finish this video. So for reference, the most similar song to APT is Alter by Poppy, where 7 of the 8 intervals are the same. You can see this on the graphic because all the colors match up except for the last pink one. You can also see that the least similar is Viva, Vida, but I have something to say about this. Of course, they have a perfect fourth and the major second in common with the orange and the light blue, but I do want to point out that Viva La Vida has a few that are just inverted, major instead of minor intervals. The red minor second being a major second, the yellow minor second being a major second, and the green major second being a minor second. So it's not that different, it's just a little different. In some of these examples, Night Changes, Alter, One of Your Girls, and Forever, I added together 2 or 3 intervals to create one that's further apart. This is to show the similarities with these examples and APT by consolidating pickup intervals or intervals between the notes of the main melodies. So if I take you through these examples, we have Night Changes with a pickup note into the main melody, then a minor second down in common with APT. We then have a major second down and then another minor third down from the C to the B flat and then the B flat to the G. But if we just go from the C to the G, then it's a perfect fourth. Erasing the other two intervals makes the main interval similar to APT. Then we have a minor second, and then we have a major second, both in common with APT. If we take one of your girls, for example, we have a minor second down, and then from F sharp to E, we have another minor second, and then from E to C sharp, we have a minor third, but from F sharp to C sharp, that's just a perfect fourth. So these notes going down that I broke apart are just pickup notes to the melody of APT, which is why it sounds so similar, even though it doesn't look that similar. The arrows in this key signify the melody going down or going up in pitch. So the APT melody line goes down, down, up, down, down, up, which is mostly the same for these other examples, except for maybe one extra down in a line and one extra up in a line, which goes away when you consolidate the intervals. And for most of these examples, the beginning of the melody matches much more to each other than the end of the melody line. It seems that some of the examples go their own way at a certain point, like with Can We Dance, where they have a lot of repeating eighth notes, but then it goes down a perfect fourth, up a minor second, and up again a major second. Then it has more repeating eighth notes. Then it goes up a minor second, then down a minor second, then down another minor second, not at all like the end of APT's melody line in the pre-chorus. In conclusion, I found that with these many examples, the reason APT by ROSÉ and Bruno Mars sounds so familiar is because of the jumps and spaces between the notes and where they land in the melody line. Anyway, that's all I have for this video. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!